Welcome, everybody, to this next edition of the What's Next podcast, which is my opportunity to have some words and a little bit of conversation with forward-thinking people in the L&D space. And the person that I have with me today is definitely one of those people. Jerry Kaminski is at Ford, has had a varied career. Jerry, I think it's probably safe to say you've seen it all. Although today's not going to be focused on what was behind us, but it's more what you see next. But give us just a minute or two kind of background. All the you've done some fascinating things.
Sure. I've been in the L&D space now, going on 45 years, believe it or not. I've held every position from instructional designer all the way up to and including chief learning officer. Right now in global learning operations. As you said, I've seen it all. I've done e-learning back in the 80s. I've done web-based learning, accomplished author in several books and white papers. I've held several positions and officers within ATD and ISPI over my career, and getting ready to wind down. And knowing we're talking about the future, I've been talking about that lately because I've been seeing lots of changes. And as they always say, we need to review our past to see what our future looks like.
Yeah. Although there are things in the future that the past is not all that informative anymore. It's always a dead giveaway when somebody says, I didn't even have to see you to tell your age when somebody says what web-based training, right? Every now and then you see that and you're like, oh yeah, okay, you've been around a little while. So
A little
the
bit.
point of yeah, the point of our podcast, Jerry, is to really give you an opportunity and maybe for me to weigh in or ask some questions. But as you look at the near term and kind of midterm next year, maybe the next three, maybe that's a bit far out, but um, what do you see? And the natural answer to that, of course, is AI, right? That's the elephant in the room, and everybody says that, and it's true. It's a giant thing, right?
Right.
But either set it in context or give us a perspective of other things that you see, because our audience is almost all L&D leaders. So what's helpful for them to see and understand from your perspective?
Well, I think you hit on, I mean, the future of our field is technology, but it's not just AI. AI is just one more tool. I mean, I was around long enough when, CBT was going to replace all the instructors, and it didn't do that. And then we had AR and VR, which was the new thing since sliced bread, and touch screens and interactive job aids. It's just one more tool. I mean, at the end of the day, we're still looking at the fact that we've got to impact people's performance and behaviors on the job. And whether we use technology or human skills, the future is going to be there. I think the biggest challenge I see is we've got, and I've been reading a lot about this, like there is a big void when it comes to leadership skills and how to lead other people. And then I think the one area in L&D that worries me the most is the creation of the new job code, content creators. We've got all these people who can do wonderful things with technology and video and some of the AI tools that they have, but they lose sight of the performance improvement aspect and the human behavior. They're not looking at adult learning theories and how do adults learn. Or in some cases, they're making wonderful content. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great content creators out there, but it's not doing anything for you to move the needle. It's very flashy, it's
Right.
very uh,
Yeah.
entertaining, it's got lots of content, but does it really give you what you need to do to improve the performance of the people you're trying to train?
And you bring up an interesting point, because tools are tools, but how
Mhm.
human beings learn,
Mhm.
right, doesn't
Yes.
really change that much.
Hasn't changed
And
in
and
60 or 70 years.
yeah, we always think that the the tools are going to alter the bedrock learning theory, and so I see very much what you're saying. You get some very aesthetically pleasing things that are built on some really sketchy theories of adult
Mhm.
learning, and you can create award-winning things. They're beautiful, but that's not the point of L&D.
Now, the other thing you bring up in it's been a sticky wicket probably the last 10 or 15 years too, is everybody's all so hot to trot on Agile. Agile works in development. It doesn't work in design and analysis. Because if you think about it, if I try to do Agile design and I design something wrong with the intent that, well, I can change it when I get it out there, you're dealing with humans. Once I teach somebody how to do something wrong, incorrectly, or
Right.
unsafe, trying to undo it, it's not like me going into my phone daily and updating my apps. That's agile from a development standpoint or from a software standpoint. But agile in a human body isn't quite the same. So we got to be very careful. And we can do rapid prototyping and we can do agile development of tools and deliverables,
Yeah.
but we better take a very cautious approach to analysis and design so that we understand that, we're looking at target audiences and all the aspects of the human behavior and what does it take if we teach them the wrong way or the incorrect way. And that's always been, and
That's
that's where I see the biggest threat to our field.
interesting. Well, I
Now,
mean, the thing, every time you're teaching somebody something, you're asking them to unlearn and relearn.
yes.
And if you've asked them to relearn something and 6 months in, you go, oops. Now you have to unlearn the thing that you yourself taught them, and you have annoyed them because they're
Yep.
wondering, why didn't you get this right the first time?
Yeah. And you touched on a good spot for the future. This is where AI does come into play. I've been using AI now for about 4 years at Ford. I used it for years in the military. I mean, AI is not new. It's been around for 25 or 30 years. It's just now much more applicable and accessible to more people. AI can be helpful as a tool for you to validate what you're doing, but at the end of the day, that human still has to look at it. I mean, there's so much with the hallucinations and the apparitions and all the stuff with that, and especially now that there's more agents coming out in AI, you got to be very cautious on how you apply AI within the learning field. And again, it's just one more tool. I mean, at the end of the day, you're the human, you have to interface with the human, you're teaching humans.
Right. And one of the, I use multiple AI tools every day.
Hmm.
One of the biggest challenges is actually spotting its errors, and it will have errors.
Oh, yeah.
But the assumption that you're dealing with an omniscient being is a
Hmm.
really bad one. And at the end
Hmm.
of the day, you can't go, hey, that's Claude's fault, right? It's
Yep.
your
Yep.
fault. You own it. Yeah. All right, what else you seeing around the corner here?
Well, as I say, I'll just do one more on AI and then we can move on.
Yeah.
But the two
Yeah.
things I heard when I was out in San Diego a couple of weeks ago at this conference was you got to be very cautious on which AI tool you select because it assumes the political and geopolitical aspects of the organization developing it. So it will lead you down a path you may not want to from a political or a social standpoint. And then there was an article came out about 3 weeks ago in Time Magazine that IBM flat out came out and said that their new hires, they want them to know and understand how to use AI in a job, but it's not replacing them because if they do that 3 to 5 years down the road, we're not going to have a workforce that knows how to think. So they're very much approaching it as a tool.
Which comes back to your earlier comment about the need for leadership training.
Yes.
Um, it's and honestly, when you think of leadership training, you go to motivation and team building and culture and so on. But the biggest part of, well, this is personal for me. If I'm going to be led by somebody, you better be a really good critical thinker. I don't really
Exactly.
care how nice you are if you can't think.
And make decisions and lead a team of people successfully.
Yeah.
I think the other scary part, and I say this because my wife's a teacher, we are probably 5 to 10 years out of a major flood of, for lack of better terms, incompetent people. And the reason I say that is look at all the children that were in the K through 12 system during the pandemic who went into distance learning that was not really designed as
Right.
distance learning.
And
And
no
there's
time and bad
no
tactics and yeah,
yeah, no social
yeah.
interaction skills in that. And we're starting to see it now within, the middle-aged kids in that. But
Hmm.
think about another 5 or 10 years, they're going to be entering the workforce, they're going to be entering leadership skills or political skills. It worries me a little bit because, they don't have that, like I said, this is where I think looking at what history provided us leads us to the future, and they don't have that historical perspective to think on some of that. So it could be interesting. And they're the ones that are leading towards, using technology to replace thinking.
Right. Yeah, that's I love the tools. I'm so happy that I live in an era
Mhm.
where, such things are possible. They're incredibly powerful. They're
Mhm.
getting more intuitive. And I'm incredibly grateful for all of it. But
Mhm.
it the critical thinking, the problem solving skills, and the
Mhm.
putting
Oh,
pieces together, the things that seem disconnected but aren't.
yes.
Um, that's how you move the
It,
ball down the field.
you hit a good issue too with problem solving. I mean, working in manufacturing, it seems like every 5 or 10 years, all the manufacturing, all the engineering folks reintroduce lean as if it's something new. I mean, you go back to Dr. Deming in the 50s,
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
the whole principles of lean and lean manufacturing and problem solving and all those skills that, were the Toyota production system
Yeah.
have not changed in 50 or 60 years. They just get reintroduced and they get repackaged with slicker graphics or technology delivery. But basically, problem
Yeah.
solving is problem solving. It's
Yeah.
PDCA, it's
Yep.
5Y, it's
Yep.
5W2H. I mean,
Yep.
the skills do not change. What changes is the people that think it's new.
It's funny you say that. I was looking at a project management software yesterday. Um, and I'm just laughing because I've read all the Toyota stuff years ago. And I'm like, you guys aren't saying it, but you took this, you folks took this directly from Toyota Lean
Oh yeah.
systems. It's all the principles, if you can read between the lines,
Yeah.
all of the principles are there. It's a really cool way to manage them, right?
Good.
I mean, I would imagine in the 70s, people would have said, it would be unthinkable that you have these tools available. But there really isn't a
Right.
lot of shift in the underlying first principles of problem
Yep.
solving and management.
Well, it's not just in that field; it's even in the training field. I remember when I was in grad school, I had a class with Dr. Rita Ritchie, who was the dean of instructional technology at Wayne State, and she wrote a book. And what she did was, this was back in late '80s, mid '80s. She looked at every one of the companies that had created their own instructional design methodology, and there's like 50 or 60 of them. And at the end of the day, every one of them fell into the ADDIE model. They
Right.
changed the name, they changed where the breakpoint was or what the tool was, trying to
They added
market.
a
I mean,
they added yeah, they added two things and took one away, but it was all the same
yeah,
stuff.
and,
Yeah.
and I did a report for her. I said, at the end of the day, why don't we just all use ADDIE? And that's what we see a lot of that now, and a lot of the content. I mean, I've been telling instructional designers for the last 10 or more years. I said, the only things you should be designing training for is proprietary content or things that is not readily available. There is so much content out there today. You should be sourcing it. Refinding what's out there, reusing it. And as long as it
Yeah.
hits 80 or 90% of your need, do that and then add a job aid or a small module. But don't create,
Right.
nobody should be
No.
creating leadership courses or,
No.
courses on how to use a computer. I mean, that stuff's all
Yeah.
out there.
It's that way with books too, in the
Hmm.
topic of leadership. I have paid attention to the field and read not every certainly not every book, but you hit a certain point in reading leadership books where it's rephrasing. Yeah,
Hmm.
I haven't seen much new where I went, oh wow,
Yeah.
in a decade or more, where you
Yep.
go, there's
Yeah.
different twists on themes. That's kind of like movies. I mean, a book,
Mhm.
right? It's repackaging a lot of very, very old stories, which is encouraging for L&D people if they realize using the tools well, going back to first principle, not know the first principles, use the tools well, and learn to think critically, and you're actually in a pretty good spot.
Yep. Yeah, you mentioned books. I mean, 6 years ago at the beginning of the pandemic, I was asked to work on a project for ATD where we wrote a book called
Yeah,
Leading the Learning Function.
yeah.
And that book it ended up being 42 authors and 40 chapters. I wrote two of the chapters, and I was asked to write the pilot chapter so everybody could write from it. And the way we wrote that book was we wanted everybody to do storytelling. So I wrote the chapter on needs analysis. And instead of, throwing out all this reference and materials and, step by step, I told a story on how we did a needs analysis, how it was successful. And all those 40 chapters are done the same way by the 40 different authors. And the book was written in such a way. that we told people this is not the kind of book you read from cover to cover like a story. It's like a
Right.
cookbook. If I need to know how to do a needs analysis or how to do a target analysis or go
Right.
out and design an e-learning module or what technologies for my LMS, there was a chapter on each one of those contents on how to lead a learning function. But the idea was that that book was designed as a reference tool, not as a read through.
Right.
And
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I get to the point now where I don't read that many more books anymore because you're right. They're rehashing the
Yeah.
same term. They're changing a terminology so they can copyright it or, trademark it. But at the end of the
Sure.
day, leadership skills are leadership skills. Project management skills are the same. Lean skills are.
Yeah.
So I think, but what's changing is, people like you and I have been in the field long enough are starting to exit the field, and we got new people coming in, and all of a sudden it's like it's a whole new uh, discovery for them. They think they have to
Right.
recreate stuff.
So I'm gonna you know why not? Because I know the term, but
Yeah.
there's a Latin term, ad fontes, which is back to the sources,
Yes.
right? And so the interesting thing, I'm asking you what's new, and you're telling me what's new isn't the tools because the tools change all the time.
Exactly.
What's new is a return to the original first principles, ad fontes.
Yes. That's
I
the
feel I
best way to
feel
look at it.
really I feel really good about myself, Jerry, that I could throw a little Latin in there.
No. Well, I don't, I don't think you knows about me, but I took 4 years of Latin.
I took one, hated every minute of it, and I just
Oh,
happened to remember that expression. So
yeah. The only thing that was good about Latin was I get to learn how to read all the, what do you call it? Stories.
yeah. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. Good stuff. Also
And
first principles.
I did it because I was originally thinking I wanted to be a doctor. I was going to go to med school, so I thought Latin would have been a nice help. But
It would have been. It would have been. I'm glad you
yeah.
landed where you landed.
Yeah.
Um, anything else that you think we need to be thinking about? We'll circle back with you
Well, I
probably in a
think I think
year or
the thing we
so,
got to
but
think of the thing we got to think about too is and I've been like I said I've been involved in ATD for years. I've been on their public policy committee and I work with ONET to develop the competencies for the instruction design. I think not only do we have to be cognizant of what's in our own field and what we're doing, but we got to be looking at what's the politics. The Department of Justice, the Department of Labor. There's a lot of stuff that positions come out that they make, things like, reporting sometimes. We were asked to do some reports last year. All of a sudden, the government wanted, like, they were impossible to do, even with the best LMS and the best data analytics. All of a sudden, these people, like, we want this report, like, they don't even know what they were asking for. So I think
right.
we got to be cognizant of not only within our field, but what are the factors that are impacting us, you know? For
Which
years, I was,
is yeah, very broad. It's not just government,
yeah,
but in regulatory, but it there are there are all sorts of influencers, and if we
yeah.
just are focusing on one thing, sorry,
I,
continue thought.
Oh, I was gonna say I do see one major change I hope is coming, and and I hate to say it this way, but the demise of talent management and HR. The performance
Mm,
improvement or the instructional designers have a better, those of us that work in the human performance technology field understand all the aspects of what it takes to run a business and the people. And I think too often the HR folks get too transactional and worry about the things around benefits or payrolls and stuff like that, which is okay. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you need it, but
it's
I
their
think
job.
we need to elevate people that are like our backgrounds higher up into the organizations that really understand human operations.
Yeah,
So, we're changing the term to what, CHROs now, but realistically, we need a chief talent officer, somebody that really understands
yeah,
all aspects, which includes talent acquisition, talent management, IO psychology, things like that. And
yep,
I'm starting to see a shift where CEOs and CEOs are starting to look more towards those of us that have that broader background. We're not there yet.
yeah.
We still got a few years there, but I think they're starting to realize that the current org structures don't support their growth and continuation as much as they think they do.
Right, right. Good. All right. Well, we are out of time. Jerry, thank
Oh,
you for
thank
your
you.
thoughts. This is it's we could probably keep going for another 45 minutes, but
We good.
I just am so appreciative of your time and sharing your experience and thoughts. And we look forward maybe in another year, we'll see. Maybe we'll be smarter.
Okay.
Who
You're
knows?
welcome. Thank you. Mhm.
All right.